Welcome to the One Gang Worldwide podcast, your ultimate ride into the world of motorcycles. Visit cyclesworldwide.com where we offer a completely free marketplace for everything motorcycles. Join our One Gang community where you can connect, share info, and swap stories with riders from all over the world. Join for free at cyclesworldwide.com and be a part of the One Gang community right now. On today's episode of the One Gang Worldwide podcast, we're navigating the digital landscape of motorcycling with Justin Bradshaw, co-founder of Rever, a motorcycle trip planning app that's revolutionizing how riders explore, share, and connect. In this episode, Justin will talk about the inception of Rever, how it's transforming the motorcycle community, and the future of connected riding. So whether you're a tech-savvy biker or curious about how digital tools can enhance your riding experience, you'll find Justin's insights incredibly valuable. So strap in as we're joined by Justin Bradshaw right here on the One Gang podcast.
You just put everything into it, and there were times I remember we had to return a vacuum cleaner one time. Thankfully, Costco, as you know, returns anything, but we had a vacuum cleaner.
Yeah.
We probably had that for like a year, but we literally had to return a vacuum cleaner to buy diapers for my kid.
Oh, man. Hey, guys, today we've got Justin Bradshaw of Rever Moto. We are pumped to have you, man. It's going to be a good one. Thanks for joining us.
You bet. Happy to be here, guys.
Thanks, buddy. Thanks for coming on. Hey, listen, you've got a pretty adventurous life, so we can't wait to hear all about it. Let's start it off. Tell us a little bit where you grew up and kind of like what initially sparked your interest with motorcycles.
With motorcycles, definitely a family thing. I've got two older brothers. I was born in Texas. My older brothers were professional motorcycle racers when I was growing up. They're quite a bit older than me, so I really looked up to them. But they kind of raced in the Jeff Ward era of things in Texas. So I grew up riding. For the off-road racers and moto guys, they'll remember a guy named Kent Howerton. He's got a ranch in Texas that I grew up learning to ride since I could walk. So, it's definitely been a family thing from the very beginning. My dad, he's in his 80s now. He still rides the crap out of a motorcycle.
Does he?
Yeah.
That's killer, man. That's
killer.
But
What does he ride?
He's got like 7, but he's really big KTM fan. He's got like every size of KTM that you need. But yeah, he's not as strong as he once was. And
Of course. He's in his 80s. Understandable.
Yeah, but for sure slowing down, but he's out there. Him and my uncle. My uncle was a factory mechanic for Suzuki for a long time in the, 80s. But they, they're best of buds and they go ride all over the damn place. They were just in Baja a couple months ago together, riding around, 2 old farts on bikes. So yeah, it's a family thing.
What was your first bike?
My first bike was a Suzuki quad. I think it was when I could barely walk. And then a PW like everybody else in the world. Small little 50, and then just kind of moved up. We moved out to Colorado when I was still a kid in elementary school. So, had a Honda XR for trail riding and that sort of stuff. I took a pretty substantial break from motorcycles though as a kid. My brother were older and raced motocross. We were up in Colorado, and I just started playing more hockey and kind of focused on hockey for a real big portion of my life. And then, I always rode, just didn't ride as much, and then got into road racing when I was, a teenager. Yeah.
Were there any, obviously you grew up, it sounds like it's in your blood essentially. Were there any moments in your childhood that stick out that, man, was like, this, I love this. This is like in my blood. I'm passionate for it.
Well, early on, of course, cruising around with my older brothers who I totally look up to.
How many older brothers do you have?
I have 2 older brothers, 2 younger sisters as well, but my older brothers, they still ride and race. But yeah, that was a huge thing. But truthfully, I kind of didn't love motorcycles from 12 to 16 or something like that, because A, I was focused on hockey, but B, when we moved to Colorado, I was younger when we moved here, but my dad has this reputation of just, doing crazy shit and bringing people along to places they shouldn't be.
Yes.
So I just
Awesome.
remember it always had to be a massive adventure. There was never any food. There was never enough water. There's always somebody getting hurt. There was always a mechanical, and you're in the middle of the mountains, the middle of nowhere. So it was a huge struggle. And the equipment wasn't that good. I don't know, as a, like a 12-year-old in the 80s, early 90s, it's not like, it's not like the KTM 65s and other bikes they have now that are just dialed. They're big,
monsters,
heavy.
monsters.
Yeah, they're monsters, and you got to be. So I actually was like, no, I don't really want to go, like spend 2 days wandering around the woods.
What do you think your dad was doing? Hard love stuff or just
No,
kind
that's just was his jam. I mean, he built a lot of trail in Colorado and explored a ton, and lots of folks know who he is around here, and but also it was just super hardcore, like very hardcore. So
right.
As a 12-year-old, I thought it was cool for a little while, and then I thought, no, I think I just want to go play hockey, and then I got back into off-road riding later on in my teens, but in between, got a road bike, and I did do a lot of road riding with my dad. And he never road raced, but I, kind of got into that on my own. He helped me out with
going back into you said you took that little break, then you started playing hockey, kind of concentrated on that. When you got back into it, how did your career in the motorcycle industry really begin?
Well, geez, as a career, I was in my 20s. So, I mean, I road raced through college, after college.
Wow.
Really focused on that for a long time. And wasn't really in the industry per se, other than just as a enthusiast.
Enthusiast, yep.
Yeah. But in 2004, I bought a 1974 Pinzgauer, like a Swiss Army truck. They're pretty cool. Look them
Sweet.
up.
Yeah, those are so cool.
Yeah, they're super cool. I bought it and drove to South America in it. So I spent like a year cruising around. Nothing to do with motorcycles, just surfing and, being a travel bum.
Right. Enjoying being young, man.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. And had a project in South America that I was involved in. I bought some land when I was in college, which is a whole separate story. But yeah, I lived there for a while in Chile and did some thing with real estate. And, but on that trip, yeah, we can get back if you want, but to the origin stories of, like getting in the industry, I ran into a guy near Machu Picchu when I was in my Pinzgauer with my buddies and a dog, and he was on a KLR, and he just stopped on the road, and we stopped to like take a leak or something on the side of a mountain road, and I started chatting with him. I think he was a truck driver in the U.S. I just asked what he was doing. He said, "Oh, I'm just cruising around on my KLR. I kind of lead it in places around the world. Last year I rode around the world."
Wow.
I thought, no shit, you rode around the world on a KLR, like by yourself? And he said, yeah, I just in parts and pieces. I asked him how long it took, and he said it only took him a few months, 3 months maybe. I said, yeah, that's not horrible. Like maybe my dad wants to do that. So the next time we had internet cafe, this is before the days of just like cell phone and smartphones anywhere. Right. The next time we'd internet cafe, I had sent an email to my dad to say, I ran into this guy, and he rode around the world on a KLR, and it only took him a few months. You think you could take 3 months off work sometime? We can do that. And he thought, he just said, shit, yeah, let's do it. Sign me up. So, I mean, it took 2 years. We actually did ride around the world together.
Wow.
Yeah. But that was kind of, from then on, I knew I just needed to be around motorcycles as much as possible.
That's incredible. So you and your dad did a trip around the world together.
Yep.
That's got to be, I mean, one is obviously for your dad, it's cool because he's with his boy. But how old were you at this point?
Early 20s.
Early 20s, man. So how was that for you being with your dad doing this trip?
I mean, yeah, it was amazing. I still look back and go, there was internet, obviously, there were some resources, but not like now. I still do a lot of travel and travel with my kids a ton, but it's different. There's a lot of information in the palm of your hand. You can figure shit out in a hurry. And this was in fact, we left we flew from Los Angeles to Japan. It was the first leg of the trip. We put the bikes on a plane, and I remember walking around Santa Monica the day before we were leaving, and there were lines and lines of people outside of Apple Store. It was the day that the Apple iPhone launched, which to me is like the day the world changed forever. So that was the day we started our trip. And yeah, and it was great. I mean, it was hard and challenging in ways, but incredible.
So where did you guys start? Where did you start your journey with your dad?
I mean, we started in Colorado at our house, and we just rode west till we got back to Colorado is the shortest version of it.
That's the way you did it. Wow. That's crazy. And what bikes were you guys using?
KTM 950 Adventures.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Hey, take us a little bit into Chile. Tell us what you did there, man. I mean, I know it's a little bit outside the motorcycle world, but I'd love to hear. I mean, you're an entrepreneur at heart, man. I mean, everything you've ever done at a young age, man, you've always been doing it yourself and taking the leaps and bounds to try to do it on your own. Take us a little bit into that journey.
Yeah, that was kind of the beginning of it. Although, I mean, before then, I paid my way through college painting houses and had a painting business and that sort of stuff. Not glamorous, but paid the bills, allow me to buy my race tires and race gas and get to races and save up for this trip to Chile. But that really was the impetus of a few buddies. I mean, up here in Colorado, a lot of my buddies were raft guides in the summer. Just kind of one of the things you do as, you know, a summer job for mountain kids. And we get a lot of international raft guides that come in, and one happened to be from Chile, Christian. So we got to know him, and a friend of mine went down to Chile in college and guided with Christian in a place. It's in the mountains of Chile, kind of central Chile, northern Patagonia, south of Pucón. If anybody who's been to Chile knows where that is, in a little town called, we're south of Temuco, Pungipuy. It's this tiny village in the middle of nowhere. But he's a really cool, wealthy Chilean businessman who bought a large piece of land in Chile. They're right on the Argentine border and turned it into kind of a nature preserve. And he subdivided some lots out, and at the time Chile was very progressive with their willingness to invite foreign investment. And of course, being a college kid, having no clue what the limitations of anything are, I thought that'd be cool to buy something in Chile and do something. So I bought the Pinzgauer and drove down there and bought a piece of land with the expectation that I would develop it, build some kind of tourism retreat for folks that we knew up here in the mountains of the Vail Valley, and just show people different parts of the world. And I did. While I was in college, I flew down there and figured it out, and didn't speak a lick of Spanish.
But how'd that go?
Myself and a friend, we owned land in Chile, and then when we graduated college, we actually had to get like a hall pass from our teachers. We went during Christmas break our senior year of college to do this. It took us a while. We missed a bunch of finals. We missed a bunch of school. But I studied tourism and natural resources in college, and so we just told our dean what we were doing and asked for forgiveness, and they said, yeah, I think we'll give you a pass on missing some school for that one.
That's cool, man. That's cool.
That is so cool.
Did you ever think about moving out there or no?
Yeah, I mean, I lived there. We was gone for a year and lived there for a long time. We ended up buying a small cabin and living out of it for a long time. The dream was to have a spot in this nature preserve, and then we had a small cabin we were going to live in while we envisioned that dream and built it out. It didn't fully end up like we had totally imagined, or our house burned.
Oh shit.
I laugh now. It's because it's funny. I mean, these aren't big dollars I'm talking about here, but it was big dreams, and every dime that I had to my name, that's for sure. Right. And no one helping us out, it was just me and a buddy. So it was devastating at the time, and it was hard to recover from that. Honestly, we kind of both got into other phases of our life and business, and I did around the world trip, and it just kind of was hard to recover emotionally and financially from all that. We put so much effort in and built this place, and it burned to the ground. So
That's
Sorry,
devastating.
man. Yeah, that sucks.
oh,
That
I mean, the
sucks.
land's still there. I haven't gone down in years, but it was definitely the beginning of, if I could figure that out, I could probably figure anything out.
So you still own it?
not.
You still have that piece of land then?
Yeah.
How
there.
many acres is it out there?
Oh, it's a few hectares. It's not a big piece of land. It's just
Gotcha.
but it's in the most beautiful spot that you can imagine. Waterfalls and
Wow.
glaciers and
Man.
volcanoes, and
Killing
it's spectacular. Yeah.
So you literally you went through trial by fire.
Funny that I've actually never put it that way, but it's absolutely true. Huge failure for some people, but learning for
That's right.
others and for myself.
Yeah. You obviously used it for good, made you stronger.
Yeah,
It sounds like.
Yeah, I learned a lot. I definitely learned to put yourself out there and have dreams and not be afraid to figure it out. And doesn't always work out like you want it to, but that's also not necessarily a bad thing. It's part of a journey.
Yeah. So what else? What other roles and what are the things that you do in the industry before you got into Rever?
So after I got back from riding around the world, I was trying to figure out what was. I don't know if you guys ever used a Butler map. They're like physical
I was gonna
paper
ask
maps.
about that, yeah.
But I started that.
Right. I remember that. Yep.
That was the original idea was a friend of mine, Court Butler, and another business partner, Scott Calhoun, and they kind of had the idea. Scott was a novice motorcycle rider, just getting into it. Was from Texas, and wanted, like you guys, dreamt of going places on a motorcycle, and
That's right.
just had no clue where to go. And
How'd you get
there was a
linked up
lot
with him?
Well, Court is just a local friend from here, from Eagle, where I live now.
Cool.
When I got back from my trip riding around the world, just talking to him, and he said, "Hey, I have this idea," and I thought, "Well, that's a bitchin' idea. Let's do it." So him and Scott had kind of kicked it off a little bit, but we've officially went for it, and yeah, that was 2009 ish. And it was great. We also had no clue about publishing, no clue about cartography.
Right.
Just knew that motorcycles were cool and people needed to know where to go ride them. So we spent years.
And all your lessons, all your lessons, your dad, when you quit motorcycling, when he would get lost and all this stuff.
Totally.
I guess that was a big inspiration to you with Butler,
Yeah.
man.
Absolutely. Yeah. So we spent years, many, many years, and I'd like countless miles riding around the country, documenting roads. That was our
That's
job.
killer, man. That's
we rode,
incredible.
we documented, we cataloged, and then we created waterproof paper maps that have like a color coding system on it that just showed where the good roads are. So if you open a map of Colorado, you can instantly see, the stuff in gold is the stuff I got to go to. The stuff in red and orange, also awesome, but less of a priority than gold. You kind of stitch it together. So that turned out to be a great success. We published maps for all over the country, and we had custom maps for all sorts of folks, Harley and BMW, and
That's cool, man.
we did lots of trade shows. We sold maps, and we just built a distribution network. Sold direct to consumer from our little office here in Colorado, still do. And kind of in that journey, we knew that paper maps were already kind of the buggy whip of technology.
Right.
Got the job done. But we knew that we needed to have some sort of digital solution to show people where cool roads are. And we originally started kind of thinking about Garmin's and selling little SD cards that downloaded routes that you could buy on paper maps.
Yeah.
But also not being a tech person at the time, it was, that was a challenge in and of itself. And, as we're developing the business and the brand and scouting roads and doing all that sort of stuff, trying to figure out the digital side of things, it became clear that mobile technology was going to be the way. The thing that, the handheld device in your pocket was going to eventually take over Garmin's and everything else, and that a mobile app would be the way to do it. So we kind of turned focus to that around 2013.
That's cool.
Um,
Hey, listen, let me ask you a question before we get into Rever and how that formed. Um, Take us into a little bit the trip you did with your dad around the world. Um, Tell us something, a cool story or a place that you just surprised you, or some things that you ran into that you had to tell us a little about some of the adventure part of that trip, because
yeah,
you know what I mean. Like there's people, anybody who rides, that is like a fantasy dream for somebody to be able to not only travel across the country, but I mean, you traveled around the world. That's insane. So
yeah,
take us a little bit in there, man. Give us some juicy stories.
yeah. Honestly, to me, it didn't feel insane. It's just like, oh, we'll just go that way and we'll figure it out as we go, which is kind of what we did. We had a general plan of where we were going. You know, we knew we wanted to go to Japan and ride around. We knew we would take a boat from Japan to Vladivostok, Russia, which is on the eastern
Right.
coast, right near North Korea and China, that area. And we knew that it was a challenge to get through China, so we knew we'd be riding through Siberia and Russia. That was kind of the extent of it. We camped and all that. And, you know, I will say, because people probably look at that and go, holy shit, that's crazy. I never looked at it as crazy. I never felt threatened. I never was like in danger of my life. Not one time in all of the countries I've been to on a motorcycle or not, have I felt that way. And there was something specifically about riding around the world on a motorcycle that I think made people feel even more compelled to
Help.
approach you. Yeah, you're
approach
just
you,
kind of vulnerable in a way that people
Agree.
are like, crap, what's this guy's story? I want to know more. And so they approach you. Some of them are motorcycle riders. And so there's an instant connection there. So we ran into motorcycle riders everywhere and have, the stories go on and on and on. We ran into a gang of dudes in Siberia who were like connected to some mafia folks, and we stayed at their clubhouse for a few days and
killer, man.
in a city. There's some really cool stuff.
Is there one that specifically, like, I know they're all incredible. One, because they're the tales from the road, but two is you were with your dad. Is there one that really kind of sticks out that you could share, if you could share it?
Well, so, it's unfortunately hard to ride across Russia right now. And that's
Right.
kind of one of the least complicated ways to ride around the world. It's just the fewest border crossing, and kind of logistics involved. But at the time it wasn't all that dangerous. So that's the way we did it. But I think one thing to know is just Russia is freaking enormous. It just goes on and on and on and on forever. But one story that sticks out is, I think, somehow incredibly remarkable. It sounds almost made up. With all my honesty, I can tell you it's 100% not made up. But there is a lot of bureaucracy in Russia to import bikes and get all the permits you need and visas and all that sort of stuff. So the paperwork is not unsubstantial. And I had a little like plastic, like waterproof, I don't know, like, piece of paper
Right.
size thing that I kept all of our documents in. It was like our tarjetas, our visas, our passport, like everything.
Yep.
In this little roll up waterproof thing, and I kept it in my tank bag. And one day in the middle of Siberia, I don't even know where we were exactly. But we had stopped for some reason on the side of the road, like get some water, look at the map. I don't even know why we stopped, but apparently took that waterproof thing out that had everything we needed. And I think I just set it on the back of the bike, and we rode away. So we rode for like a half a day, I don't know, several hundred miles.
Right.
And went to lunch, came out from lunch, got back on the bikes, and we were formulating a plan. And I went to look for, the satchel thing, and it was gone. And I thought,
crap.
My God, like, we have no passport, we have no titles of the bike, we have no proof that we're allowed to be in the country. We are screwed.
Right.
I thought for sure we were totally screwed. So we thought, well, we have to ride back. The last place we stopped was like a tank of gas ago. So, a few hundred miles. So we rode back there and just looked alongside of the road for hours. I mean, we covered like stretch that was several miles long for hours and hours, and never found it. And thought, well, I don't know what to do. We're screwed. So we turned south towards Mongolia and thought we'll just go a different direction. We'll go into the nearest town, which was, a few dozen miles away, and tried to get a hotel and formulate a plan on what to do. And while we were doing that, we turned off the main road, off the like Trans-Siberian Highway, onto some random dirt road towards some random town. And while we were on this little dirt road, we passed an old car, like an old Lada, and he kind of looks at us as we're passing and slams on his brakes, turns around and honks and is chasing us down. And I'm thinking, oh shit, like this is trouble.
Right.
I don't know. Maybe we're not supposed to be here. But anyway, we stop and the guy runs out holding all
You gotta be kidding me, man.
all of them. So, I mean, this is like a half a day later, not even where we were lost the stuff, but yeah, some dude found them in the middle of the road.
That's unbelievable.
Yeah, thought, saw us and thought, well, this
You just
has to be
assumed it was you guys.
Yeah.
Dang.
That
totally. Yeah, I mean, we were just like, holy cow, some kind of fate, some kind of divine intervention just saved our entire trip, because
wow.
I have no clue what we would have done without that stuff.
That's
It would've
nuts.
Yeah.
That's insane, man.
Yeah.
That's insane. Dude, how long did it take you guys to do this trip?
It was like 4 months.
4
Fairly
months,
quick.
huh?
I mean, I
Yeah.
don't know. Some people think like, oh my God, you spent 4 months on motorcycles. Some people think that's super quick.
And how many miles did it total out to?
Oh, around 30,000.
30,000. Holy shit. That's incredible, man. Thanks for sharing that. That was cool.
Yeah.
That was cool as shit. All right, man. You what inspired you to team up with Mark when you guys created Rever Moto? Like, what was the thing behind this? What was the specific problem or gap that you would? I know you were saying you started to transition from the paperback now to going into more of the digital world.
Digital.
Take us a little bit into that.
Really, it was just an acknowledgement that I had reached the end of my functional knowledge of how a technology, like how an app should work and run. I mean, we started investing into Rever. We actually called it Riding Social at first. Wasn't even called Rever. And we had contractors and we were just pumping money that we were making from the paper maps into the app. But not really knowing what the heck I was doing. The analogy I like to use is that the technology, especially apps, is like building a house. There's a contractor, that kind of knows a little bit about the whole thing, but then he hires the plumbers and he hires the electricians, and these are all specialized people. And technology is the same way. There's back-end people, there's server people, there's database people, there's there's native iOS people, there's native Android people. Yeah, there's all of these things, and I didn't know if we were. I just didn't know. I didn't know. Are we spending the right amount of money on this stuff? Are we spending? Are we getting what we should be getting? Is this taking the amount of time that it should? But we kind of had a proof of concept, and we had a real app, and we had it in the App Store, and we were marketing it to, Butler Maps folks. So we had an audience and a little bit of proof. But it was definitely clear that we'd bitten off kind of more than we could chew. So. I didn't know Mark before Rever, but a mutual friend of ours, a lawyer. Mark's also an entrepreneur. He had started and sold a business in the ski industry, software business in the ski industry. A couple years before we connected, and so a mutual friend said, when you learn what we were doing, oh my God, you got to talk to Mark. He was spending time doing like startup mentoring with folks in Denver and some VC funds and all that sort of stuff. So we just chatted, and I told him what I was up to, and he's a lifelong writer. And a award-winning mobile app developer. So he thought, man, this is actually awesome. I want to be involved. Can I be involved? And I said, heck yeah, please be involved.
Right.
And it kind of went from there. It was not easy, for sure. It's been a long journey.
Take us into some of the other challenges that you faced. Obviously, the launch, you're feeling like you bit off more than you can chew, but what are some of the other challenges that you faced as you guys were growing and getting your name out there?
I mean, a lot of it is, well, there's technical challenge, building the product, making it appealing, making it useful, measuring and all that stuff. But honestly, it was the money part of it. I mean, these tech startups, I know there's lots of glitz and glamour, and people think, oh my God, there's another tech bro, sold a business, sold software business or whatever. I think that sells the complexity of this way short, because it is insanely complex. There's a lot of issues, or miscalculations, misunderstandings between founders early on. So my co-founders of Butler Maps didn't have the stomach for proceeding with the tech side of the business. So we ended up splitting ways super early on. And then we had to figure out how to make our own money. And a lot of these businesses, it takes a long time to make money.
Absolutely.
There's a long ramp up period, and it takes scale. So you need money. And luckily for us early on, we had some traction, but not nearly enough to cover all the expenses. So we were just spending our own money.
Did you guys seek investments?
We weren't looking specifically at the time. We were thinking about it. But early on, luckily, in 2015, BMW I Ventures, which is like BMW in Germany, BMW Motorrad. Well, it's not Motorrad specifically, but it's their corporate venture capital arm. So they invest off of their balance sheet, or they did, in the company. Typically, there are later stage companies than Rever was at the time. And more automotive focused. I think we were their first early stage investment and their first motorcycle two-wheel focused investment.
Wow. Cool.
But that was kind of the beginning for us. We were able to raise a bit of money, hire some people, and do the right things in the right order. And then we kind of just got into the super typical, you take money from a venture capitalist, and now that's the path you've chosen.
Right.
So you start to do all the things that are required of that, the board meetings and the projections and the pro formas and the constantly running out of money and constantly raising money. And, I moved to San Francisco for a period of time, and we had some other high profile.
Was that because of where most of the investors were?
Well, our investors weren't physically low. Yeah, but yes, our investors, BMW, was not. They partially were. They had an office there. But yes, I mean, if you're a tech company looking for money, there's a few places you need to be involved in. San Francisco is one of them. So yeah, I moved out there for a while. And lucky enough, we were able to, get enough traction, and I think tell a story and raise enough money to grow the business to a spot that it was functional and scalable and profitable. And yeah, I mean, fast forward a few years, we sold Rever to Komodo during the pandemic.
Let me ask you this before we get into that. Obviously, Rever was growing significantly since you first started with it. What do you think were some of the key factors that contributed to the growth? Take us a little bit. You took us into the challenges. Take us now into more of the growth part of it, where you started to see the light at the end of the tunnel.
Well, I think there's a few things. It's a lot of hustle from the folks involved. Myself and Mark and the people who worked for us were all very legitimate, hardworking motorcycle enthusiasts, and we felt like we were tackling a real problem that people in our motorcycle enthusiasts needed a solution for, and we knew that because we were motorcycle enthusiasts, and we felt like we were tackling it in a professional manner versus some other people had tried. There were some other motorcycle apps that were doing similar things, but more like hobbyists in nature, kind of doing it on the weekends and this. And we kind of took a very professional approach with some serious money and serious brands behind us, but also being insanely authentic along the way. I mean, I went to all of the trade shows. I did all the marketing and stuff, and we're out in front of customers, and Mark too. And we just got connected with the right people because, we were real motorcycle riders doing real things. Right. So we built lots of relationships, not just BMW, but I mean, KTM and Harley and Yamaha and Suzuki, others. And Just, nothing was overnight, that's for sure, and nothing was easy, but
So
it's still
you
Rever
guys
stronger than
launched.
it's never been. There's millions of riders all around the world, and it's just it's a tool for people to go have a good time on their motorcycle. And
That's right.
Yeah.
that was needed when we started it. It's still needed now. Just make it easier for people to go have awesome experiences.
Was there a
Mhm.
time frame between you started in 14, right?
Mhm.
And you sold in right before COVID, so around 19
It was during COVID.
during
20.
COVID. All right, so you sold in 20. During that time frame, well, let's say 6 years, where did you see that you were on the right path?
Well, it's part of the stress of startup journey period. I just believe we were on the right path from a metric standpoint. The things that were important to us and our investors, we were always moving up and to the right. We always had positive growth every single month, since the beginning of time.
Right.
There's arguments on the scale of that growth. Is it enough or not for the people who gave you money? But the reality is it was always growing up and to the right. So, it wasn't like, oh, we found the 10,000 people that cared about this and that was it. It was always, we always felt like we were just scratching the surface of the potential of the product and the breadth of market penetration that we could get, because there's motorcycles all over the world. So it was backed by metrics that we follow, revenue metrics and download metrics and usage metrics and all those sorts of business things, but also just a hunt that we was new that,
Gotcha.
and
Gotcha.
unwillingness to give up.
Good, man.
because
That's
of
the way. That's the
stubbornness.
only way. But that's what makes you who you are, brother. That's why you're a successful man.
But still a long way. I would definitely be lying if I said it was easy and we just thought, oh well, we nailed it out of the gate.
Right,
Now it's all rolling. It was many, many, many hardships.
Yep. No, we understand, man. We're going through that right now ourselves with a startup, so we're grinding away. So that's how it is, man. You gotta blood, sweat, and tears every day, and continue to believe and work hard to do the right thing. So that's awesome to hear, man.
Yeah, it sounds so simple, and people ask all the time about the secrets to some of these things, but there is no secret, and
There is no secret.
Yeah, and there's no silver bullet either. It's just hard work and believing.
That's
and
right, and believing. Yep.
being
Hard
smart
work and
about
Yep.
being smart about things that you can, and realizing you can't know everything.
That's right.
So when the app is launched, you're cooking with fire now. What were some of the key strategies that were successful for you guys in bringing new traffic and new users on board?
Well, I think a lot of the business partnerships we had were important and validating. They were very distracting, and for small teams, I think we could have probably focused on other channels to get people's attention to download the app and come join us. But we did a lot with folks like KTM I mentioned and all the other brands I mentioned. I think that gave a lot of validation
Gotcha.
to folks, certainly to our investors and the rest of the industry. Like, well, if they're doing things with these people, then something's right.
That's
So
right.
I think that was an important thing. But also, we've always had core product that I think just solves problem. So it's just it always has been a matter of tweaking the user experience, tweaking the product to make people as comfortable as possible and stick around. But we had Butler maps in the app from the beginning, which I think it remains huge. Those, you can go buy a physical paper map and you can download Rever. Those are the two places that you get that information.
That's right.
And I still stand by the information comes from, like 5 people in the world who have ridden hundreds of thousands, millions of miles of road. So it's good. I mean, it's just legitimately good. If we we highlight a road, say it's good. I stand by that. It's good. And you don't have to screw around. You don't have to go to 12 blogs or, 12 forums to figure out where to ride in Georgia or Colorado or Montana. I mean, you just open up that right there, and or a map. So I think that was really the base of it. core problem was a problem we're solving. So that just brought us a long way.
That's cool, man. That's cool.
And you guys,
Hey,
you've got over 1 million downloads now, so you're doing something right.
You got more than that.
No, I
don't
think
you?
we're over probably over 3 or 4 million downloads
Good
now.
grief, man.
That's
Yeah,
insane.
2 million.
Hey guys, the show will be back in 1 minute right after a word from our sponsor.
Hey, One Gang, tired of feeling like your butt's taking more of a beating than your bike on those long rides? Introducing Butt Buffer, the ultimate solution to saddle soreness. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. These cushions are made from medical grade viscoelastic polymer, scientifically crafted to eliminate pressure points and keep your circulation flowing. No more numb nuts or numb butts. And here's the best part. Butt Buffer cushions are made right here in the US for the last 30 years. From Harleys to Hondas, we've got a cushion to fit your ride perfectly. Plus, with styles ranging from sleek pebble polymer to luxurious sheepskin, there's a butt buffer for every rider's style. Get your butt buffer today at buttbuffer.com. That's buttbuffer.com. Your butt will thank you, and you'll ride longer and happier. We've got your butt covered. Komodo Holdings acquires Rever Motor. How did that acquisition come about? And kind of like, what were some of your thoughts? Because you kind of built this thing from the ground up. What were your thoughts in joining forces with a larger company like Komodo?
Yeah, I mean, they found us. We weren't actively out searching for an exit. I mean, we knew we would need to find an exit eventually, but truthfully, our investors were not pushing it. They wanted us to grow, and honestly, they weren't all that. I mean, they didn't think we should sell. They're like, you guys are just at the beginning. Yeah, I've got a long way to go. And originally we said thanks, but no thanks to Komodo.
What, the offer sucked?
Well, it wasn't just the financial offer. We just thought this just isn't the right time for us. We had other people interested. So, we were in conversations with other folks casually. So we knew that we'd be able to sell the business at some point. But we were convinced, I guess, by Devin Popovich. He's awesome. He's the guy who kind of led the investment from the Komodo side. I think he did a great job of convincing us that Komodo was the right path. And truthfully, I mean, just speaking frankly, for me and my family, I've been an entrepreneur from the beginning, as mentioned, and I've taken big risks my whole life, both financially and physically, on the race bike and
for sure
travel and everything else. And there was never a lot of money. It was never about the money for me, but it was definitely hard, very hard for a long time for my wife and my family, because you just put everything into it. And there were times I remember we had to return a vacuum cleaner one time. Thankfully, Costco, as you know, returns anything, but we had a vacuum cleaner.
Yeah.
We probably had the vacuum for like a year, but we literally had to return a vacuum cleaner to buy diapers for my kid.
Oh man.
So
those are the stories, man.
That's like literally $100. Like, we need $100. We don't have $100. Like, my wife's, well, we took the vacuum cleaner back. We don't really, I just mop. So it's shit like that,
Yeah, but that means you got a good partner, brother. You know what I mean?
Well,
like
that's true. Yeah,
that's a good woman that stood
around through all of it.
She stuck around, and she knew that she believed in you, and that's huge, man.
For sure. Yeah, there's no doubt about it. And there was starting to be light at the end of the tunnel, toward the end of Rever before we sold from that front, but still not comfortable. So it's not like when you take people's money. I feel like that's a common narrative in startup land and investment world is, people feel like they won the lottery when they closed that first seed round or that Series A financing or something. And that's the beginning. You made it to the start line when that happens, and investor or founders aren't taking large sums of money off the table the day that investors give them money. Their investors are giving you money to grow the business, not your personal bank account. So everybody's in it for the long haul and to wait to see what happens at the end. And the reality is most fail, that's just the truth.
That's the truth.
I've helped advise companies and become a bit of an angel investor. myself and put some money into company. And
That's the
I
dream,
got an
man.
email. I got an email first thing I woke up this morning. Emails was that this company's folding. They just,
Ah,
Yeah.
it's a successful. I mean, in my eyes, huge potential, but they couldn't make the runway happen. Couldn't capitalize fast enough. Couldn't raise enough money, and that's just the truth about it. There's always a cliff. It's like building an
It's
airplane
tough,
in the
man.
air while it's
That's
flying,
right.
or laying the tracks down on the train while the train is going. Those analogies are
Yeah.
pretty common everywhere, but it really is accurate. So anyway, that was part of the, this was an opportunity to do the right thing for Rever, to kind of give it more fuel. And it was the right thing for Mark and I personally. It was 6 years with Rever, but 4 years. There was a decade of me thinking about this problem before we sold, and that,
wow.
it was exhausting.
I'm
Yeah.
sure.
How did things change after the acquisition by Komodo? So I'm curious about your life, but also the actual product, the app itself. What were you able to implement, and how did they transition?
I mean, that's very, that I could go on and on about that. And there's like a business angle to think about in the response there, and just the product and person and stuff. But I mean, the product for sure got better. I mean, we almost spent no money on marketing for, very minimal. It was all very organic. It was us going out and doing stuff. So they juiced the marketing pipeline, which was great.
Mhm.
The reality, however, of acquisitions with my business hat on is it's a massive change going from a 8-10 person startup
Yeah.
where everybody does everything and we make decisions on the fly like this, into
Yep.
a giant corporate wheel with thousands of people.
Yeah, that's got to be crazy.
And figuring out how to grease the wheel and get shit done and make decisions in a timely manner. So, truthfully, kudos to Komodo and the leadership team there. I think that they were very patient. But they're also private equity backed, which has its own
There's pressure.
realities of expectations. And it's tough. It's super tough. So I'd say the product improved a lot. I think we had some expectations, as did Komodo, that they would take over ownership. We would stick around, the team would stick around and run it, and that times were good during Komodo for the motorcycle industry, so profits were solid. And I think the expectation of Rever was we would invest substantially in resources into Rever to do all the things that we just couldn't do being a resource strapped startup. And we started to do those things, but truthfully, the industry turned. I mean, it's been a tougher few years. So
Yeah, no question about it.
nobody gave up hope, but we just didn't get to do it. I mean, Rever's the same size, the daily people, same size as when they bought us. That's not totally fair to say, because, we have an HR department at Komodo now. We have, an accounting department, and all these kind of auxiliary services that we were doing on our own that now get handled for us, which is fantastic. But yeah, I mean, not without challenges, but we've been super psyched with. Yeah, I mean, it was the right decision.
The right
and the
time
people
and the
there
right
are great.
decision.
Yeah, they're
Yep.
legitimately good people who give a dang about the riding industry there,
Good.
which is important to me.
Of course.
But it doesn't mean that it would easy. It's still not that, it's still not easy. Not that it should be, but just figuring out how somebody like Rever fits into the bigger cog is tough. And the other reality of acquisitions like that is it's very, very rare, that they're successful period ever, like long term. A lot of them just get shut down or folded out or whatever. It's even less common that the founders stick around for more than a year.
No doubt.
And we're still here. So,
Well,
I
that's
think
good. That's good.
that's
That kind of leads us to this question, the next question, which is like, describe to us your current role at Rever under Komodo, and how's your day-to-day changed since the acquisition?
Yeah. Well, we changed leadership, and we've changed, the org chart of Komodo has changed a few times since we've been here.
Mhm.
The the guy whose idea it was to put this acquisition together was the first person that we reported to, and we kind of brainstormed stuff together. But his job wasn't just Rever; it was other things at Komodo, and so his job changed. The other things part of his job changed a few years ago, so we got moved kind of into the marketing department, and kind of worked under a different senior leader at Komodo, and then that changed, and then that changed again. So we're now into the fourth person, all great people. I mean, all along, I think my title has changed. Truthfully, as a founder, Mark and I always just put co-founder, even though I was kind of, did marketing, he was tech. We never had CEO titles. We never had CTO, CMO, any of that. It was just, and I still am not concerned with that. So I think technically right now, my title is general manager of Rever.
Okay. But everything kind of stood the same as far as
everything
day-to-day
mostly the same.
responsibilities.
Yeah, we still have a little office here in Colorado,
Nice.
and but we do have some great people. A really great kid. I mean, he's gonna end up running Rever one day, I'm sure of it. Bjorn, he was my kid's race BMX, and he was my kid's BMX coach, and he grew up here also playing hockey.
Cool.
And we hired him as an intern while he was in college. He was, where he's out racing and he's coaching. What are you doing this summer? And he rides motorcycles, super passionate, just incredible rider, mountain bike rider, BMX rider, motorcycle rider, and racer. And he's, I need an internship. I said, I got one for you.
Killer.
And he's been here, and he's really taken a huge role in everything. So my role's changed. I'm not doing as many of the routine daily stuff. Of course, all the accounting and jar stuff. There's way less of that for me to deal with. But I'm still very much in the weed on a daily basis on the product and managing the team. That hasn't changed. But there's more people around to help execute. So I'm with where Rever's at. It really, it's still an amazing team, and every single person that works here rides a motorcycle, and that helps them.
That's huge.
Helps them solve the problem.
Not just a bunch of suits. Yeah.
No.
Yeah,
No.
for sure.
I mean, there are plenty of suits around. The suits are hovering, asking about what's money we're going to make next year.
The bottom line. I know.
Yeah.
But as they should, the bottom line.
It's not a nonprofit, but that's important because there's competition, which is important, which forces innovation, and it forces you, to do the right thing for customers because you're asking for their money. So
that's right.
Yeah, that's actually perfect for the next question I had. Are you guys essentially focusing on what you're currently doing and making it better, or do you guys have any new innovative ideas or projects that are in the works to improve the app?
Yeah, I mean, it's always improving. There will never be a time when we just hang it up and say, there's Rever, it's done.
Yeah, final product.
Yeah, final product here. No, it's constant. It really is really, really challenging. I mean, I think, I'm proud of our team for a few, besides it being one of them, but for perspective, there are other apps like Rever in the universe that for other enthusiasts. There's All Trails for people that hike. There's Strava for people that ride bicycles. There's countless fitness apps for people that do those things and walk their dog and all of it. They're all probably 10 times to 100 times bigger in team size than Rever.
Yeah, All Trails is huge.
Yeah.
Strava is too.
Exactly. But, we kind of do the same thing, and, we don't have the same volume of people moving through, but we kind of have a lot of the same metrics. I mean, we perform in the same way for a different audience with a fraction of the team size. But with that, we just have to make very deliberate decisions on the product. So, we release a new product every 2 weeks, something changes, something's fixed. Every quarter, there's kind of bigger improvement. And every year in the spring, we usually do like a bigger, kind of like we're on version 8 of Rever, the Ocho.
The Ocho,
so we have
nice.
Big update, in the spring for something. Last year was the discovery mechanism. We added thousands of new routes all over the world, and we kind of just changed the user experience, how you access and find those things. This year we did a lot with communities, so that you can create communities in Rever and, invite other riding friends and share rides. And pictures, all that stuff a little cleaner with them.
Have you seen a lot of engagement in that?
Totally, yeah.
Heck yeah.
Hey,
We
Justin, what do you see as far as which countries seem to be taking on? You've got probably 4 to 5 million people on your platform. Are you seeing one area of the world a little more stronger than others with Rever?
I mean, to me, it's one of the cooler things, one of the prouder things is knowing that there are people in like 100 and something countries riding motorcycles with Rever in their pocket or Rever on the bars,
Killer,
and they're stoked on it. And we get things all the time from places that you go, oh no, there's a group in like the Philippines that uses Rever every single weekend to go do cool
Nice.
shit, and they send us routes. You know?
Nice.
But it's all over. I will say this: when BMW invested, of course, they're a global company. They were interested in us being a global company as quickly as possible, which we tried. It's insanely hard to do.
Yeah.
You have to translate things. Every market is different from a marketing standpoint. You know, the German, we go over there for meetings all the time in Munich, and they would always like fun way poke fun at like how American our marketing is or how American this branding is or whatever. And we're like, well, yeah, look how German that piece of marketing is. You know, neither of us are wrong. It's just the reality that every market is a little different.
That's right.
And that nuance is hard to nail, A, for a small company, and B, period. So we haven't put a ton of effort into, we're going into this country full steam. We've kind of just been dabbling. All that said, there's a lot of riders in Mexico. There's a lot of riders in Germany, a lot of riders in Italy, New Zealand, and Australia. And, I mean, they're literally in 100. I don't even know. It's 120 something countries have people who have downloaded Rever, but Mexico surprises me. There's a large contingency of people in Mexico. India too. There's a lot of riders in India.
Cool. A lot of riders. The largest in the world, man.
Yeah.
It's insane.
And I kind of always thought it's all just scooters. You know, it's like, yeah, there's a lot of registrations, but they're all 125cc scooters that people are using to bounce around town. But the reality is there's very engaged motorcycle, like legit motorcycle groups and clubs and riders there, you know, and they're not all, there's definitely fewer large displacement bikes for various reasons, but
they're like 350 and 500s. 500s considered they're large, and Royal Enfield basically kind of owns India out there. But, well, let me ask you this, man, you know, for a guy who was born with 2-stroke motor oil in his baby bottle, how do you see the motorcycle industry evolving in the next few years? Especially kind of like with the integration of more technology, digital tools. What do you see in for somebody who's really lived and breathed this industry?
Yeah. Well, from a technology standpoint, I mean, we've been on the front edge of that. We started, and, you know, you asked about R&D projects. We've done a lot of cool things over the years that are tied into Rever that maybe someday we'll get back around to doing. All technology related, but not necessarily, you know, a different app or anything, just things that tie into the app. And I have seen that technology, I mean, we're slow as an industry to adopt technology compared to automotive as one example. Changing, you know, the bikes are changing quickly, and I think for the better in terms of their safety, you know, the braking systems, the electronic systems, the traction control systems, all that stuff I think is better. I think it makes people safer. And if people are safer, they're riding more. The people are riding more, to me, they're healthier. So that's better. And it's better for the industry. The industry itself is healthier too. So, I mean, I'm optimistic. We obviously got a huge COVID bump, but I think that's indicative of the fact that there was a lot of curious people, and that was the thing that brought them over the hump, right? It's like, well, I spend my money on concerts and ball games this year, so I've been curious about motorcycles. I'm going to do that. And we've seen a retraction from that point because now people can spend their money in other places, but it's the high watermark was moved up.
Agreed. Yep.
And I see us coming out of this kind of current economic situation better as an industry, and with more people curious about motorcycles, which I think is great, because I truthfully, the places they can take you and the people you can meet with just by having being on a motorcycle, I mean, it changed my life. It is my life. And so I'm a huge advocate for it. The more people riding,
Me too.
I think the better. But come back around your question. Yeah, I'm optimistic. I think there's a lot of forces at play in terms of where people can spend their money and what money they have available to spend. But the bikes are going to get better, and yeah, I think that's going to help.
Yeah.
And the spread. I mean, the choices are just unbelievable.
I also hope the younger generation takes a little bit more hands-on approach with this. It seems like just a lot of younger guys in their 20s. I don't see too much oomph in regards to moving into this. So we've got this gap, and I think the only way to do that. I mean, we were talking about it on another podcast one time about like. Now you have everything's electric, right? Electric scooters, electric, whatever it is. So you see a lot of the kids driving electric bicycles, electric scooters. So if that's the way to get them into doing this, I'm all for it. Anything that could move this generation into staying on two wheels for a long time is the key.
Yeah. I think it is, truthfully, and I know that there's a lot of opinions on those topics. But just from a fundamental standpoint, I mean, I can tell you, I have a 13-year-old kid. He's a super high level hockey player, so he's very much focused on that. And he races downhill bicycles, and he's ridden motorcycles and raced since he could walk as well. But he has a KTM 85 that I bought him 2 years ago, and he's not ridden it one time.
Holy shit.
Not one. It's a used bike, but he's done the time. He likes to race motocross. I'm not a big moto guy. I've got a trail bike. If I bring my motocross bike out there and case something, I'm going to break myself in half again, which I don't want to do. So part of it, like a dad failed to bring him out to the motocross track. But the reality is it's a big effort. It's a huge effort to get him out there to ride. But I'll also say this. I have an 8-year-old. She has a gas electric bike, the E50 gas. And my two older boys, 13, 11, they learned to ride on a KTM 50 2-stroke, which is loud and cool and a pain in the ass to work on the clutch. And I got to load them up in a trailer or the van. And I got to take them over to the track, or I got to take them to this little trail system where we putt around. And we did for a long time, but like I just said, it faded because it's a pain in the ass. But now they have electric bikes. My daughter they all have one. My 13-year-old has a Stur-on, and they ride them every single day. They're not like gearing up head to toe and going to ride trails every day, but they ride them over to their friend's house. And we do take them out to the mountains and putts around on dirt roads and that sort of stuff. My daughter and my son rode my daughter down to our dentist, which is like 2 blocks away. We live in a small town, but they're on their electric motorcycles.
Cool.
So,
Hey, at least they're on it, man. At least I love
getting
that.
them involved, and they know how to ride. They know the balance. They know the throttle. They know the brakes. And then
Does your wife ride too? Did she ride?
She rides on the back. My wife rode. That was the other part of the around the world story, but she rode from Istanbul back to Colorado with me.
Killer, man.
Yeah. And we got engaged along the way in Ireland.
Wow. That's a heck of a story, brother. That's cool.
But to your point on the growth and e-bikes and kids, to me, anything they're on with 2 wheels, better than being in front of a screen on a video game.
Agreed, man. Agreed. Yeah.
And speaking of the younger generation, for aspiring entrepreneurs who are looking into getting into the motorcycle industry, or more specifically the tech startup world as well, what advice would you give to those kiddos?
Well, they legitimately have a startup in the motorcycle world. Find my email, hit me up on LinkedIn. That's one thing. I'm
right on.
I'd love to give personal advice, and, help
That's
out
awesome.
where I can. I think there's a lot of opportunity in motorcycle. I really do. I think, the reality is it's hard. from an investment standpoint, if you're thinking I like motorcycles, I want to do a startup, there are places to find money, but most of the big venture capital firms and angel investors they look at the motorcycle industry as tiny compared
That's
to
right. Yeah.
the market for Facebook or TikTok or other places they could put their money. That's just the reality. So it's hard. You got to really have a developed plan to attract the money. But taking money doesn't mean, it's not the only way to start a business is taking other people's money. You just start it,
Right.
and you start grinding, and you get out there, and you put yourself on the line, and you don't, be afraid to fail. I think is the number one thing.
Yeah.
But you gotta grind. You gotta expect it to take a while.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So, looking ahead, what are your personal and professional goals for the future? I mean, you're still a relatively young guy. Any new ventures, initiatives you're considering? What's on the plate at this point in time?
Yeah, we've got some stuff cooking. Let's regroup in 6 or 9 months.
All right, you got it, bro.
Talk
We'll
about
we'll
some of
have you
those
back on.
things.
We'll kick it off with
Heck yeah.
what's
Yeah,
happened.
but I'm not done. I mean, this is in my blood to create things, and
It's who you are, man. It's what makes you wake
um,
up every morning, man. It's what boils your blood. So
totally. Yeah, I'm very much focused on my kids right now. That's a small window of time to do that. They're
Yeah.
growing and doing lots of racing, bicycles, and lots of hockey stuff. But motorcycles. Yeah, it's in my blood. Right now I'm scheming a way to get my 11-year-old kid out. We're gonna go somewhere in the world. I told him we could do something. My 13-year-old's going to Prague to play some hockey, and my 11-year-old's
Nice,
super
man.
jealous.
nice.
So I said, well, where do you want to go then? And he's like, I don't know.
Yeah.
Where? He can't decide. I said, well, if you let me decide, then we'll just go somewhere, and I'm not going to tell you. You'll learn when we get to the airport. So I'm going to rent a bike somewhere, like, rent a GS and go cruise around Africa or something, I think, at the end of the summer.
Awesome, man.
Yeah. So things
So
like
cool.
that is where my head's at now. Get my kids involved in travel.
And stuff like that is what kind of totally piques their interest for the rest of their life in
I hope
regards
so.
to not only just motorcycles, but just about learning about other cultures and the way different people, how they live.
Yep.
It'll ground them a lot more knowing, walking outside of the small town of Colorado. You know what I'm saying?
So true.
Like,
I sure hope so. That's my
No, it will, brother. It will, because the younger generation, man, the kids are almost, and I hate to say it, but it's the truth, man. It's like the younger generation, when you see them, they almost like feel like they're entitled, because they don't grow up like we grew up. They got everything that they need, and if it broke, it's they'll get something else the next day. Where with us, it was a little different. I mean, what you had, you took care of. You spent time learning about it, doing it, getting your hands dirty. And I just see this younger generation of kids everything is very, very like next.
There's some
Yeah.
things that are
Next.
easy, way easier, and there's other things that are a lot harder, and not their fault. They were born into
No,
it.
it's not.
Sorry,
It's
our
not.
job.
It's
The
it's
way
our
I see it.
it's the generation and the world we're living in.
To me, motorcycles are a small glimmer of hope in that. I mean, it really they get people out, they get people connected.
Agreed,
Yeah,
man.
you don't have to leave
Agreed.
the country to get the benefit from it, but if you can, I highly recommend it.
All right, my man. Before we get into the speed round questions, let's do this. Where can people find you, and how can our listeners get a hold of you if they needed to reach out and ask anything?
Good question. I abandoned social media a few years ago. I had a mental breakdown.
Can't blame
Semi-joke.
you.
Really have a mental breakdown, but I just got overwhelmed with the social media,
Can't blame
Understood.
like how tied I was to it. So I'm actually not on social media, but I am on
Congratulations.
LinkedIn.
you. Yeah, LinkedIn is awesome.
I am on LinkedIn, so hit me up there, or just shoot me an email, Justin@Rever.co.
All right, cool. We'll get that
Yeah.
in the show notes. All right, you ready for some fun questions? First,
Bring it
man,
on.
what a journey, man, you went through, bro. I mean, just this type of stuff that you've done. Anybody who rides a motorcycle, that's a dream. So, I mean, you're still a young guy, man. You've seen so much in such a shorter period of time. So, envious on this side here. I've done some cool trips, but nothing like this. So totally excited. So let's start,
Okay.
man. What is the best motorcycle you've owned or ridden?
Oh boy, man, I've ridden a whole lot of them.
Sure.
So I mentioned that I road race. My older brother, also road race. We kind of got into it at the same time after he done racing motocross, supercross. And a few years ago, he bought an British superbike, like like basically a factory Kawasaki superbike, and it is the most bitching machine.
I can imagine, man.
Like
So
totally,
cool.
totally bespoke swing arm and subframe and
What is that?
Dang.
1400?
no, that's a ZX 1000.
1000. Okay.
Yeah, but it's
Yeah.
it's a
Cowie makes an insane bike.
it's unbelievable. It's just unbelievable. It's far from stock.
Yeah, I can
It's
imagine.
basically a factory superbike, world superbike, and it is unbelievable. That's the best
So cool.
from a
All right, cool.
performance.
All right. If your
Right on.
motorcycle could talk, what would yours say about you?
Oh boy. Well, currently it would say, "Frickin'
Let me
ride
rest.
me, bro."
Let me rest.
Yeah, no, unfortunately, I've had quite a few injuries in the last year, so I've ridden way less in the last year than is typical for me. That's
Okay.
a lame one to say. My motorcycle would say to ride me, but it's true. I've had 2 shoulder surgeries in the last 12 months, and it's prevented me from going.
Yeah, I had one last year, and my right one now is
Yeah,
in,
dude,
in a miss. It's
Nothing-
a
nothing
mess.
fun.
It hurts, man.
there's nothing fun about
All
it.
right, this question's gonna be this is the selection for this question. You could probably choose almost everything you've done, but best place you've ever rode and why?
Boy, yeah. I mean, that list is. I'm saying Mongolia though.
Mongolia. Okay,
Man.
very cool. What's the most embarrassing song on your playlist?
Oh. So I mentioned I have an 8-year-old daughter. She has this like crazy, she just loves corgis. I don't know why she loves corgis, but she's just into corgis, and she's been begging for a corgi for like 3 years. And we already have a lab, and we travel a lot, and I just been
Yeah.
shutting her down.
That's tough.
And I finally caved last week to the corgi. So we have a corgi puppy biting
Yeah.
everybody's ankles, running around the house right now. But there's some pretty hilarious. I call him a potato because he's like this big and he looks like a potato. So I don't know how my daughter found these songs about like potato dogs, but there's pretty funny.
She
Yes.
downloaded them onto. That's funny, man.
A couple really funny ones about dogs and potatoes on my playlist right now.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Hey, all right. If you could time travel, which era would you visit and why?
Oh boy, my 11-year-old asked me this the other day. He's kind of curious about lots of things. Oh man, I think I'd have to go. Way back. Sometime in like pharaohs, a few thousand years ago.
All right,
would
all
be
right,
cool.
cool.
Maybe what I.
All right, that's cool. All
Yeah.
right, favorite motorcycle movie of all time?
Well, I mean, on any Sunday, probably.
All right, any
Gotta
Sunday.
be
Yeah, that's a good
Or-
one.
I
A-
mean,
a lot-
there
a
aren't
lot of,
that many
enduro-
things. What's
a
that?
lot of enduro guys that we've had on, and a lot of the old school guys that we've had on.
Yeah.
Have always chosen that one also.
Yeah,
So yeah,
but I mean, long way around. It's not more of a documentary than a movie, really.
it was right.
Those guys doing that was inspiration for me to go. Oh, well, those guys can do it. I can do it. So,
That's right.
Yeah.
can't say I've watched it like a dozen times, but I think it was an important film in the motorcycle industry. Definitely.
Agreed. Yep. All right. Who was your movie crush when you were a teenager?
Geez, I don't even know if I remember.
And we won't let your wife hear this.
Yeah, no, I don't even remember. Golly. Britney Spears kind of like, I don't think she's.
Yeah, why
she's
not?
Particularly,
Why not?
Particularly in movies, but I feel
No,
like
no,
if you were a
but it doesn't
teenager
matter,
when
yeah.
Britney Spears started dancing around in the like little schoolgirl uniform, that was
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. There's a hilarious meme. It's how it started, and it's one of those "Hit Me Baby One More Time" music video pictures, and now it's like, and how it's going, and then she's got the knives and axes.
That's crazy. All right. Next one. If you could meet and have dinner with one person, past or present, who would it be?
That's another pretty awesome one. Past or present? I don't know. It's not a movie star. I mean,
No, it doesn't have to be a movie star. Anything.
yeah, no, I'm just going through my head because I'm not super into politics, so that maybe someone would say a president or something like that, and
All right.
I don't know.
Any particular one or?
No, I'm not. I'm just not. I mean, I'm interested, but I'm not like, golly, Abraham Lincoln would be rad to
Yeah, man.
smoke a bike
For
with
sure.
or something. I don't know.
For sure.
Maybe like Shackleton or someone like that who, I've done some things that I seriously, I consider them so trivial is not the right word. I don't know. Pretty vanilla compared to the way people got around the world, like 100 years ago or 200 years ago.
That's
So,
right. No question about it.
Maybe some of that. I'll put Shackleton on the list.
All right. Good one. That's a good one.
Hey.
All right. One law you would change if you were president to help the motorcycle community.
Well, the lane splitting, I think. I don't think lane splitting should be everywhere.
Okay.
Yeah.
That seems to be the most common one.
Well, it's an easy one to pick out as like a law,
Right.
I will say that it's not a law, and this would not be a presidential decree by any means. And this, I'm going to say this not as a dig to people who put a lot of time and energy into motorcycle safety. I have friends at the Motorcycle Safety Foundation and friends that teach. But here's my but. You see signs, at least here in Colorado, you see signs like there's signs on I-70, whenever a pass is closed, construction. Every once in a while, especially this time of year, they put things out for watch for motorcycles, which I really like. I think it's great. But I saw one the other day that said, it was like 741 motorcyclists died this year. They have families too, it was super grim. And I thought, I'm not on the same page that fear is the way
Right.
present the message. I don't know. We've got 741 this year, this week, the last 5 years. First of all, I don't know any of that stuff. And I appreciate that we're trying to get people to look out for motorcycle riders. That's a noble mission, noble cause. But if we're trying to grow, we're trying to make people feel more
That's
comfortable,
fear.
more confident.
Yeah. Good point. That
Pointing
scares
out how many
people.
people die on motorcycles on a
Not the way
major
to do it.
freeway is not the way to do it, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Uh,
All right. That's
not
a good
coming
one.
down from the president, but coming down from somebody.
All right. That's a good one, actually. That's an excellent piece of advice. Yeah. What's the best piece of advice you've ever received?
Yeah,
I
tough
don't
one.
know.
The quick fire.
Yeah, it's a real tough one to quick fire. I apologize. I'm all bound up on that
okay.
one. If I could give people a piece of advice, just go.
Just go.
Anyway, business, go. Travel, go.
Yeah.
Go do it. See what happens.
Solid.
Good for you. That's perfect. That's perfect.
Yeah.
All right. If you could get up on stage and sing or jam with one band, who would it be?
Somebody older. I mean, one of my first concerts was Steve Miller. That was pretty awesome.
Oh, cool.
Steve Miller band. Somebody old schooler like
All
that.
right. That's cool.
But it might be. I mean, there's some, some like rock bands that are still around. Like Pearl Jams of the world that would be
They
pretty.
just came out with a
badass.
new album. It's pretty good, man.
Yeah.
All right. What is the one piece of clothing you own that you love but your wife hates?
Oh, you mean like every tank top that I no longer own because my wife threw them away?
Yeah, no, that's it right there. Perfect.
Talking about that the other day. Trying to do some yard work. Like, where's my damn tank top? I'm too old for tank tops. I threw them away.
Oh, come on.
Vince
fun.
jokingly got me a really hilarious one from Mexico last week, though.
All right, that's cool.
Nice.
All right, if they made a biker themed movie about you, who would play you?
I don't know. I don't even know any actors. I'm not very into that either. I don't know. Who do you guys think?
I
I'll
would
turn
say,
that
Reeves.
around. Who?
Keanu Reeves.
He is a motorcycle guy. Actually.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. That's a good one. That's a good. Plus, he's a motorcycle guy too. So.
Yeah.
All right. What's the silliest superstition you follow before or after a ride?
Well, I always like to tell my kids, especially my hockey player, because they're known to be superstitious. I always like to tell them that I'm not superstitious because it's bad luck.
Okay.
That's a paradox.
Funny.
It puts his mind in a pretzel. And
That's fun. All right. Besides the One Gang Worldwide podcast, of course, what is your other favorite podcast you listen to?
I'm a hockey guy. I listen to Spittin' Chicklets. I don't know if you know that one.
Spittin' Chicklets.
Yeah.
I listened to that one too. That's a great one.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, I never miss an episode of that. Sometimes I have to press pause if the kids are in the car, but
Yeah. That's right. That's a good one. Okay.
I listen to a lot of science podcasts are my jam right now. I like Science Versus, which is a Spotify original, is pretty cool in my opinion. I like to listen to a lot of economic podcasts.
Okay. Perfect. All right. Well, that wraps it up, man. You passed with flying colors, so you get to
Nailed
ride
it.
another day, man. You get to ride another day. So,
Yeah,
but
thanks,
hey,
Justin. This is awesome.
Yeah, you bet.
yeah,
guys.
Justin, thanks, brother, man. This was great. You got a incredible career. You're still at a young stages of it, and I know you still got more to give back. But what you've done, your dreams, how you follow it, good, bad, or indifferent, man, you stood with it, and we've seen the results. So it's been a pleasure on our side to get a chance to meet you, man. You're an inspiring guy, and we wish you
Big
nothing
time.
but success. And if you don't mind, brother, in about 9 months, we'd like to have you back on so you can fill in that little gap you talked about that you're working
Yes,
on.
please.
So we'd love to hear about it.
Put it on the calendar. I'd love to do it. Thank you guys for doing what you do. I think it's important to get the community involved, tell stories. It's important.
Heck
Appreciate that,
Thanks,
man. Thank
Justin.
you so much.
Have a
All
good one,
right,
guys.
ride safely.
Rock on, brother. Be good.
You guys.